Good afternoon from the State Capitol Bureau, Illinois State Capitol here in Springfield. Governor Pritzker just wrapped up his third budget address and his State of the State address. We're analyzing his remarks, fact-checking some of those remarks for you right now as reaction begins to pour in. Thank you for joining us. If you were just tuning in a minute ago or if you're just joining us now, again, Governor Pritzker pre-taped his State of the State address and budget address yesterday at the Illinois State Fairgrounds. That was significant because it was 102 years ago, 103 years ago, I suppose now, during the Spanish flu, when those same state fairgrounds were used as a mass vaccination site. You could see behind him, if you were watching, there were National Guardsmen setting up another mass vaccination site where soon, in fact, even today, there will be vaccines administered for the coronavirus at the very same spot. All of that backdrop suggests that Governor Pritzker still takes pride in his administration of the coronavirus. In fact, he reiterated many of his comments that he has given in those daily coronavirus press conferences dating back to March. That was the common theme throughout his budget address, was that the state is in a state of crisis. When every year we look for the executive, whether it's the president or a governor, to sum up the state of the state in 3 words, the governor did that as well. He said the state of our state is generous, heroic, and strong always. That was the theme. Generous, of course, being what government has done to help businesses through these trying times. He pointed to a lot of federal funding, these business interruption grants, and much of the CARES relief funding that came from Congress. Illinois chose to take a lot of that funding and give it directly to businesses. In fact, a popular barbecue restaurant in Champaign got a shout out, Wood and Hog. They were the recipient of some of that federal funding that helped to keep those doors open. And of course, a lot of public sympathy and sentiment rests with those businesses, our favorite restaurants and establishments that are able to survive. Some of them weren't so fortunate during this coronavirus. That's one of the focuses the governor wanted to make, was that during these trying times, he wanted to show that generosity, that spirit that comes forward. Of course, we're going to hear from Republicans. In fact, some reaction already coming in from the Illinois Manufacturers Association saying that it's unacceptable, that's a quote, unacceptable that so much of the governor's budget plan will hit businesses in other areas. So we're starting to see this fight roll out. The governor putting his face forward, his message forward, but also his budget would essentially reverse or unwind, remove about $1 billion in tax breaks for many of those businesses, those tax breaks that were put in place to help spark job growth. If you look at the numbers, Illinois lost more than 1 million jobs during the pandemic. We've recovered barely, not even half of them quite yet. In fact, recently we saw the new Fed chair, Janet Yellen, saying that the job recovery nationwide has started to kind of sputter out a bit. I'm paraphrasing her there, but that's a big focus Republicans are preparing to make. In about half an hour, we're going to hear from the top Republicans in the House and the Senate. They're going to give their response here as well. I want to get into a little bit more of this. We did see that IDES, the state's jobless or unemployment agency, is going to get a boost in funding. So too will the Department of Children and Family Services. Some positive feedback, of course, as you might expect, is coming in from Democrats who are saying that this budget does what it can to prioritize certain agencies and stabilize state functions during this trying time. But another prevailing theme, aside from the state's handling of the pandemic, was Governor Pritzker really putting the pressure on Republican members of Congress, those 5 Republican members in the House from Illinois who have yet to endorse the Biden administration's plan that would give federal relief funding to Illinois. Governor Pritzker put down a few markers. He said if and when Congress and the Biden administration do deliver that next round of federal relief for local and state governments, he said first and foremost, he reiterated comments we saw from Democratic Comptroller Susana Mendoza yesterday. That money should first go toward paying down the state's bill backlog and outstanding debt. Illinois did go into a lot of debt. We borrowed more money from the U.S. Treasury to get ourselves through the pandemic because we lost a lot of that tax revenue. Illinois has borrowed money. The comptroller yesterday telling us on our air, don't go and start spending that money, she told members of the state legislature, because that money is already accounted for. Governor Pritzker today reiterating that. In fact, he said we're going to put that money toward paying down our bill backlog, but he also made the broader case that over the last several years, and this is true, we fact-checked this, it turns out to be true, Illinois is what you might call a debtor state. Every dollar that Illinois sends to the federal government, we get less than that back, meaning other states get more money, and the governor highlighted some of those states around us, Kentucky, Indiana, Illinois, or Iowa rather, get more money from the federal government than we do, and we've sent more over the years. So he's basically making the argument that Illinois is entitled to get some of this federal funding back because over the years, more of our money has gone out than has come back in. And he's calling on those Republican members of Congress to endorse that proposal. We'll see what they plan to do with it. This is, of course, a rebuttal, if you will, to some of the Republicans nationwide and some here in Illinois who have said that Illinois should not get federal funding because it would reinforce bad behavior or limitless spending, if you will. That's some of the rhetoric we've heard from Republicans. So will Illinois get that federal funding? The Biden administration has queued it up. They've supported it. Now we're seeing Illinois Democrats promise restraint and discipline in how they will spend it, not on new pet projects, but rather on replacing budget holes that have existed. Those are some of the remarks. We're going to sign off with you here in a moment, but we want to hear more from you as well. You can chime in on our Facebook page in the comments section below, or send us an email, things you heard, things you wanted to hear more of, maybe things you didn't quite hear in that budget address and State of the State. But once again, this was essentially a big focus. The big message here was, one, how the state is handling the pandemic, and two, the governor kind of negotiating with Congress and pressuring Republicans to say we need to go ahead and get that federal relief, but we need to be reserved in how we use it. We'll have more analysis, more reaction for you tonight at 5 and again at 6 o'clock. For now, from the Capitol Bureau, I'm Mark Maxwell. Thanks for joining us here online. We'll see you on TV later tonight.